Yo, consider the following story. A brilliant but hopelessly insecure emperor places an internet ad for a tailor to make him the finest suit of clothes anywhere. A swindler named Goldstein answers the ad and says that the best suit of clothes requires a fabric invisible to anyone who is incompetent or terribly stupid. Afraid of appearing unfit for his position, the emperor psyches himself out until he actually believes such clothes would be real. Eventually, the swindler finishes the so-called suit and pretends to dress the emperor. Afterward, the emperor parades in his quote-unquote new clothes before his subjects, who are also brainwashed by the pretense. This goes on the entire evening. But suddenly, a wise independent thinker in the crowd cries out, "He's completely butt naked!" shocking everyone to their senses. So, everyone else takes up the same cry and demolishes the deception. The problem was the emperor caved in to his emotions, some citizens yielded to idol worship, and other citizens buckled to public opinion. And popular opinion is easily manipulated by those who pretend to support the public but actually oppose it. For example, many women in my country have been brainwashed into rejecting highly intelligent men and embracing a race of men who are more criminal prone, more disease prone, and have lower intelligence by the swindlers who run the media. Throughout history and in every culture, the public at large has been ignorant and controlled by their emotions. Democracy, taken to its extreme, would give our world's ants, since they number 10 quadrillion worldwide, the deciding vote. Our world would be ruled according to their viewpoint, and democracy would be anarchy. Even limiting democracy to adult humans, giving each one an equal vote, is bad. The general public has sometimes been illiterate and could barely read the voting card. Even the least harmful outcome of democracy would be that the will of those with average intelligence would prevail over the will of those with superior intelligence. And average people and extra intelligent people do not see things the same way. Although those with high intelligence are easily recognized by the masses, some have had the stupendous audacity to exclaim, "Since you're so intelligent, why don't you agree with me?" Average people tend to think that people with unusually high intelligence are irrational when the opposite is true. Imagine a surgeon and his co-workers in the midst of working on a patient. In the spirit of democracy, people file in from off the street and pack the operating room to assist the doctors. They all try to jam their hands inside the patient at once to try to get the job done faster. If that is highly absurd and ridiculous, why is it rational that the majority should rule? For those who continue to insist on a majority rule to elect officials, consider this. With more than 2 candidates running for the same office, it is impossible to ensure that one will be elected by majority vote. With 10 candidates running for the same office, it is very unlikely that one will be elected by majority vote. If 9 candidates each got 9% of the vote, the winner would be elected by 19%. So even the very objective of democracy often fails. Besides, democracy excludes the personality and undermines the importance of the individual. It replaces it with the masses who might be characterized by cowardice and or uncaring, in addition to their ignorance. Blessing has never resided in the masses, but in society's creative heads, who therefore should be seen as humanity's benefactors. So reject this tentacle of cultural Marxism, which issues from the giant monster of modernism, the predominant problem which may cause the end of humanity. Some people reject democracy but fear the fascism of having a dictator, emperor, or king run their country. So they seek a compromise, such as having the country run by a committee or parliament. This can be an improvement, as you could have an entire parliament comprised of men with 140 IQs instead of average 100 IQs. However, it would be virtually impossible to find a sizable group of men all having 190 IQs. If there was a man with a 190 to 200 IQ in that group of 150 IQ men, his great genius in mind's eye would be unable to shine to its fullest potential. It would be outvoted. Also, a sizable group can end up engaging in endless arguments while nothing gets done. And if a parliamentary system goes bad, it's harder to know who's to blame, as each man can point the finger at the others. With a dictatorship, however, things get done as fast as possible with no argumentation or confusion. And if things go bad, the people know exactly who to blame. The dictator has no way to shirk his responsibility and make someone else seem accountable like these other systems can. And if things went bad, dictatorships are the easiest systems to overthrow, as it's easiest to overthrow a single man. Although all dictators have men to back them up, if you knock out the head, the rest of the regime collapses. With a democracy, the exact opposite is true. If things go bad, it's virtually impossible to know who's at fault. And the system cannot be overthrown, it must be fully restructured. Besides, the misdeeds of dictators have been wildly exaggerated by those who despise authority. Undoubtedly, ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius was very wise. Yet he not only rejected the concept of democracy, but he also favored having a king or emperor who have more or less the same power as a dictator if they are over an absolute monarchy, or maybe more power. Confucius added that we must make sure that such a ruler has good character and his motivation is to serve the people. We should also make sure that such a government does not become overly large. Some people claim that after the advent of Christ as heavenly king, having earthly kings should have been done away with. That's false. Christ was not only king, the books of Timothy and Revelation call him the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. We would need earthly kings and lords under him for this designation to be accurate. Otherwise, the title would be fallacious. And the idea of having numerous earthly kings impugns the idea of a one-world government, which should never be allowed to transpire. Speaking of a future heaven, the Apostle John prophesied, the kings of the earth do bring their glory into it. 1 Peter 2:17 says, honor the king, which in its context means earthly king. And Jesus of Nazareth taught his disciples to honor Emperor Tiberius Caesar, who was quite the dictator. However, Christians should never willingly elect a tyrant. Moreover, believers should pray for great benevolent leadership. Some say that the United States was never a democracy, it's a republic. But that's only partially true. It's more accurate to say that although the United States was never a pure democracy, it is a representative democracy or democratic republic. Without the republic element, it surely would have failed much sooner than it's failing now. The United States is currently in the toilet. So before it goes completely down the toilet and out the pipes, we ought to remove those elements of democracy that hamper it and install a powerful, intelligent, and righteous leader as soon as possible.